from afar, Christ the Redeemer looks like a white, sometimes ash-colored statue of Christ. But it's more. There's an untold truth about how it was built and what was hidden inside the statue. We're used to seeing it as a still, almost untouchable icon. But really, this structure shouldn't even be standing. Is there more to it than we are told? Join us in this video as we revisit 1921, when it was first built, how Christ the Redeemer came about. Brazil was searching for a symbol to mark 100 years of independence, and Mount Corcovado, nicknamed the Hunchback, was chosen as the location. It was a beautiful choice, but also wildly impractical. An isolated granite peak, wrapped in dense rainforest and constantly battered by Atlantic storms. They needed something to make it stand out. Then, engineer Heitor da Silva Costa came along. He won the design competition, but his first idea, completely different. He imagined Christ holding a cross in one hand and a globe in the other. People hated it. They mockingly called it Christ with the ball. The criticism was brutal, but it forced Silva Costa to rethink everything. He went back to the drawing board, chasing something that could perfectly merge art with engineering. And then, the breakthrough. The statue itself would be the cross. The final design was bold, Art Deco, clean, and modern. But it came with a massive engineering challenge. How do you build a cross-shaped structure that can survive relentless crosswinds at that height? Then came the next dilemma: materials. In the 1920s, steel was the obvious choice. After all, it worked for the Eiffel Tower. But Silva Costa took a risk, a big one. He chose reinforced concrete. At the time, it was unconventional, almost experimental at this scale. But steel, exposed to salty ocean air, would corrode quickly and demand constant, expensive maintenance. It simply wouldn't last. Concrete, on the other hand, was seen as the artificial stone of the future. Still, no one had ever used it like this, at this height, for something this complex, this ambitious, this monumental. The job of calculating the stress and stability went to Albert Cacot, one of France's most brilliant structural engineers. His challenge wasn't small. He had to account not just for the statue's massive weight, about 1,145 tons, but more importantly, the wind. With its arms stretched wide, the figure acts like a giant sail. In storm conditions, the force pushing against it can reach hundreds of kilos per square meter. Reinforced concrete gave the structure the strength it needed, but it came with a new problem. How do you pour concrete perfectly without air bubbles on top of a 700-meter-high mountain where the weather can shift every 10 minutes? While engineers in Brazil wrestled with the mountain and its conditions, something else was happening across the ocean, in Paris. Silva Costa knew that if this structure was going to feel alive, it couldn't just be engineering. It needed artistry. So he turned to sculptor Paul Landowski. But Landowski didn't work on the mountain. He stayed in his studio in Boulogne-Billancourt, where he created full-scale plaster models of the statue's most expressive parts, the head and the hands, and they were enormous. The head alone stood 3.75 meters tall. Each hand stretched over 3.2 meters. These weren't just sculptures, they were templates. Landowski cut them into dozens of sections, creating detailed molds. Those molds were then shipped all the way to Rio de Janeiro. Once there, they were filled with reinforced concrete directly on site. What followed was something almost unimaginable for the time. What did they create? And how beautiful was this work of art? Keep watching to find out. Beyond the masterpiece, they designed the impossible. They built a massive, three-dimensional puzzle. Each piece was numbered. Every block had to fit precisely onto a pre-built internal metal framework. There was no room for error. A mistake of just a few millimeters at the base could turn into meters of misalignment by the time you reach the top. Now, picture the construction site in 1926. There were no proper roads leading up the mountain. The only way to reach the summit was through the Corcovado Railway, a narrow rack railway built back in the late 1800s. Everything had to go through it. Every single load, sand, cement, water, scaffolding, Even the plaster molds shipped from Paris was transported in small wagons, inching their way up the mountain. And once they got there, space was almost non-existent. There was no room to stockpile materials. The entire operation had to run like clockwork. Whatever arrived in the morning had to be used, assembled, poured, or installed before the day ended. No delays, no backups, no margin for chaos. The workers, meanwhile, lived in near isolation. Up there, they were often surrounded by thick clouds that rolled in without warning, making the scaffolding slippery, sometimes nearly invisible. And here's the part that feels almost unbelievable. Despite the danger, the height, the lack of modern safety equipment, no harnesses, no advanced gear, not a single life was lost during the 9 years of construction. For that time, it borders on a miracle. From a distance, the statue looks like one solid, massive block, but in reality, it's anything but. Technically, it's more like a hollow 12-story building. Inside, there's a complex network of diagonal pillars and beams carefully designed to distribute the immense weight down into the foundations that are anchored directly into the mountain's granite core. And hidden within it all is an internal staircase. It runs through the structure, allowing access from the base all the way up to the arms and even the head. Inside, the corridors are tight, narrow, almost suffocating. But then, on the 4th level, right around chest height, something unexpected happens. The structure opens up into what feels like the very heart of the monument. And in a way, it is. Silva Costa paid attention to even the smallest details, so much so that he had a small, heart-shaped feature molded both inside and outside the statue, crafted with the same care as everything else. It's invisible from the ground, a quiet, hidden signature, something left behind, not for the public, but for future engineers to discover. Now, while reinforced concrete is incredibly strong, it has a weakness. It's porous. Over time, changes in temperature can cause it to crack. Silva Costa knew this, so he went searching for a protective layer, something that could last for generations. Did he find it? What was Silva's motivation? In fact, let's see. The untold truth about what's hidden inside Christ, the Redeemer. He found it in steatite, better known as soapstone. Sourced from the quarries of Minas Gerais, this stone has a fascinating quality. When it's first mined, it's soft, almost like chalk, easy to shape. But once exposed to air and weather, it hardens, becoming tough and resistant to water. Perfect. But that solution created a new challenge. How do you cover a massive, curved, complex structure like this with stone? The answer was painstaking and brilliant. The soapstone was cut into around 6 million tiny triangles. Each one is just 3 centimeters wide and 1 centimeter thick, too small to place one by one on the statue itself. So instead, Silva Costa turned to the people. Parishes across Rio were mobilized. Thousands of women took part, carefully gluing these tiny stone pieces onto sheets of linen paper. Once completed, these sheets were transported up the mountain and pressed onto the structure while the cement was still fresh, like applying a kind of mineral wallpaper. And here's the most human part of it all. Many of those women wrote messages on the back of the tiles, names of their husbands, their children, even their private hopes and prayers, hidden forever inside the monument. Technically, the statue isn't even gray. What you're really seeing is a surface made of millions of tiny stone fragments, each one catching and reflecting light differently as the day goes on. That's why its color seems to shift subtly, hour by hour. And beyond the beauty, that outer skin serves a purpose. It shields the internal steel structure from the relentless humidity of the surrounding forest. But there's another threat, one far more violent. Standing as the tallest point on an isolated peak means the statue is a constant lightning target. During the rainy season, Corcovado becomes a hotspot for intense electrical storms, with powerful strikes hitting the monument again and again. Without protection, a single strike could cause catastrophic damage or even make the structure explode. So engineers designed something remarkably advanced for its time. The entire internal framework acts like a Faraday cage, channeling electricity safely through the structure. Lightning rods are built into the crown of the head and even into the fingers. When lightning strikes, the current is guided through the internal metal framework and safely discharged into the granite foundation below. It's brilliant, but it's not foolproof. Tropical lightning is incredibly powerful, so powerful that it can literally vaporize the soapstone surface on impact. In 2014, one particularly strong strike destroyed part of the right thumb. And repairing that kind of damage, it's not just technical, it's terrifying. Specialized workers, who are also trained climbers, have to descend from the top of the statue using ropes. From there, they carefully move along the outstretched arms, suspended over open air, to reach the damaged areas. Then, piece by piece, they rebuild it using soapstone, taken from the very same quarry used in the 1930s, preserved all these years specifically for restoration. It's a process that's as precise as it is dangerous, and a reminder that even icons need constant care to survive. When did they eventually finish this work? What has this statue become since it stood? Keep watching to find out. Finishing Christ the Redeemer. On October 12, 1931, the lights came on for the very first time, and the world witnessed something extraordinary. This wasn't just art, and it wasn't just engineering, it was both, fused into one. Christ the Redeemer stood there, a triumph over wind, altitude, and time itself. A 1,000-ton giant that somehow feels weightless, its Art Deco form giving it a quiet elegance, while every joint fits together with near-perfect precision. This isn't just a monument, it's the result of 9 relentless years of complex calculations, of millions of tiny stones placed by hand, of a vision bold enough to turn an unreachable mountain peak into a symbol recognized across the world. So the next time you see it, look beyond the surface. By 1990, it was clear the statue needed serious care. So, a group of major institutions, including the Archdiocese of Rio de Janeiro, Grupo Globo, Shell do Brasil, IBAMA, and the National Institute of Historic and Artistic Heritage, joined forces with the city government to begin restoration work. Over the years, more upgrades have followed. In 2003, the focus shifted to accessibility. Escalators, walkways, and elevators were installed, making it much easier for visitors to reach the viewing platform around the statue. Then came a major restoration in early 2010. This time, the attention was on the statue itself. Engineers reinforced the internal structure, carefully restored the soapstone surface, and removed layers of fungi and microorganisms that had built up over time. Small cracks were repaired, and the lightning protection system, especially the rods in the head and arms, was upgraded. New lighting was also installed at the base. The project took about 4 months and involved around 100 workers. More than 60,000 pieces of stone were used, sourced from the very same quarry as the original materials. When the restoration was complete, the statue was unveiled in green and yellow lighting, showing support for Brazil's national team during the 2010 FIFA World Cup. But maintaining the statue is an ongoing challenge. It's constantly exposed to strong winds, heavy erosion, and frequent lightning strikes. Because of this, regular maintenance is essential. There's also a growing problem. The original pale soapstone used in construction is becoming scarce. As a result, newer replacement stones tend to be slightly darker, creating subtle differences in the statue's appearance over time. Now, there seems to be a new Christ the Redeemer. Where is this located? How original is this new Christ the Redeemer statue? Let's see. A new Christ the Redeemer. At a time when Lebanon and much of the Arab world are facing deep conflict, one that has claimed hundreds of lives, a new symbol has emerged, offering a sense of comfort, protection, and hope. In March 2026, a striking statue of Christ the Redeemer was unveiled on Jabal al-Salib, known as Mount of the Cross in Al-Qa'a, overlooking the Bekaa Plain. Located close to the Syrian border, this town, home to a predominantly Christian population, has endured its own share of violence, including attacks by Islamic State militants about a decade ago. Lebanon itself stands out in the region, with one of the largest Christian populations in the Arab world, roughly 30% of its people. The monument, designed by Lebanese architect George Makhlouf, is built from white fiberglass and reinforced with more than 3 tons of steel to withstand strong winds. It rises 16 meters high, set on a 10-meter base, making the full 26-meter structure one of the largest representations of Christ in the Middle East. The idea came from Fadi Awad, a native of Al-Qa'a, who brought the vision to life with support from the local municipality and residents. Beyond its spiritual significance, many in the community hope the monument will also attract religious tourism, drawing pilgrims from around the world. The region itself is rich in Christian heritage. Nearby, in Saidnaya, stands another notable statue, "I have come to save the world," further highlighting the Levant's deep historical and religious roots. According to Syriac press, the statue depicting Christ with gently raised hands will soon be accompanied by a church. Its location is deeply symbolic. It stands on ground that was once considered a front line against ISIS, overlooking the Bekaa Valley and even parts of Syrian territory. Organizers were intentional in choosing this site. Mount of the Cross holds profound historical and spiritual meaning for the people of Al-Qa'a, transforming a place once marked by conflict into one that now represents faith, resilience, and hope. On social media, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. What do you think about the things hidden inside Christ the Redeemer and the new Christ the Redeemer statue? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for joining us as we explored the story behind the Christ the Redeemer statue and the things hidden within. We hope you found this video both interesting and inspiring. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to explore more interesting discoveries and revelations. See you there.